Hello and welcome to episode
Hello.
142 of Dissonant Waves.
Bonjour.
My name is Joan Jet. These are the
We are 8
Jetsons.
away from the big one.
I've been playing Pokemon Soul Silver for the past couple hours.
And I'm just going to do what I usually do and just say, Dominic, if you're going to refer to yourself as Joan Jett, don't look at a Wikipedia page in the controversies tab.
I could do that, but I was trying to make a Jetsons joke, so it doesn't. Apologies if I offended somebody. But hello.
Well, that won't be the first time that we screwed up an intro.
I'd say, do you want to take it over? But the answer is always no. We're doing it. Let's just keep going. We got a number of things to talk about this week. We've had this planned for a few weeks at least, so I feel like this is all kind of old news in a way. But here we are. We are talking about Pete's Death, Slice of Death, and Reign of the Anticrust. We're doing Muse, Absolution, and Black Holes and Revelations. And we're doing JPEGMafia and Danny Brown's Scaring the Hose, plus Scaring the Hose DLC Packy. So 2 projects for her artist.
Yeah, it's actually probably one of the most consistent weeks that we've had for having this amount of content.
Yeah, there's a lot of material, a lot of it's gotten good praise, a lot of it's gotten, there's a lot of classic stuff here, a lot of, focused stuff. What do we want to talk about first?
Well, actually, what I want to talk about first is all the fucking shit that I've been doing, which is why we haven't recorded a main episode in a while. Because, obviously we had the anniversary episode and stuff like that, but over the past 2 weeks, I've probably seen the most amount of gigs that I have in a 2-week period.
Yeah.
I think it all probably started with Sly Withers and Tiger's Jaw doing a combined concert. And tell you what, it was going to end originally 2 days ago when I saw Fiddlehead live, which they're a hardcore band for anyone who hasn't heard. They're United States based, rarely tour because they usually take their personal life, their band when it comes to what their careers are, etc., etc. But no, actually now it ends theoretically at the end of this week because in 2 more days I'm seeing JID, and I'm not really into that type of rapper or anything like that, but I'm just saying them. But now I finally managed to score tickets to see Evanescence in Perth. So basically, I'm not even a big Evanescence fan personally. I've just heard that Amy Lee is really good live, so I'm down to see that.
Wake me up inside,
but
as I say.
Yes, I've probably seen over all this. I've probably seen the most emo I have in this amount of weeks. It's been pretty insane because I also saw Spanish Love Songs, which
Yes.
that was a great gig over in Newcastle that I had to travel to, and then obviously we've had Fiddlehead and all the bands that were opening for that. One of them even went back. You know how we covered Sleep? No, that's Sleep. Sorry, Speed. I got these words confused already.
Yes.
You know how we covered Speed like a year back?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned the band as well that they had come from Endless Heights. Well, I found out where one of the other members of Endless Heights has gone to, and they actually went to one of the opening acts for Fiddlehead there, a band called Peace Ritual. And that was cool because I actually ended up picking up my partner some merch from that gig as well. Because I messaged her and they were selling incense.
Ooh.
Sandalwood incense. That's one of the just weirdest merch items that I saw. But apparently it was the thing that was selling out for them.
Wonderful.
Was the incense. Like it was just I had a bit of a chat with the guy after the gig and stuff, and as we were chatting, because he was running the just people would just come up and go like, "Can I buy the incense?" It was
Love that.
It was funny. And the first gig that I went to not the first gig, sorry, the second one I went to was this little festival that Sly Withers had hosted, which is the reason why Tiger's Jaw were in Australia. And I also saw another band there called Ursula. And I was actually pretty excited to see them because I heard of them. I put Stomach Full of Coal at like 96 or something in my top 100 last year. In fact, I can go search that up as I go through these stories here. And they were performing whilst the Boys were playing, which is a Australian punk rock band. It was 96. I got that all exactly right. And they're a lot more popular than Ursula. I mean, I've seen them like 10 times already at this point, so I wasn't too concerned with catching their full set. And this is Ursula's first time I'm playing outside Perth. Sly Withers, after their acoustic set, had personally recommended everybody to go and catch their set. And I was gladly one of 12 people who managed to do that.
And every 12 of
two,
those people bought a record and started a band.
To give Ursula credit as well, like they walked out, had the full production and everything like that. They would have seen that there was 12 people, and they still played a full fucking set.
Yes,
just like as hard as they could. It was great.
That's rad.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing about too is they probably seen even smaller crowds.
Probably. I mean, Perth usually, from what I hear, it's just if there's a gig on, you go to it. Which is why I was waiting so long for bloody Resale for Evanescence. But I mean, that's a bigger band, obviously. And then the last one I saw, and Dominic, you would have loved this. The last one that I had to talk about is finally seeing La Dispute live. And I kid you not, the opening act absolutely screamed you, because it was Brisbane-based, female-fronted, pure screamo.
Okay.
Ooh.
I mean, unless
basically just Brisbane Scrams, we'll call it. And tell you what, you still come out. It's a band called Blind Girls. You come out, had not heard of this band beforehand, don't know what to expect, and I don't know how someone that small puts out screams that big, but I mean, there were stereotypes you could talk about when you're listening to that band, but they basically hit all of them and they fucked. That was a great show.
Hell yeah.
So I had basically seen 2 weeks of emo, and I've forgotten throughout all of that I was supposed to listen to some rap.
But did you?
That's been my 2 weeks. Yeah, I did.
Good.
Got there in the end.
You had quite an experience in your life. Trix and I have had other experiences in our lives, I feel like. But
yeah.
We're all circling back around after what's been a weird few weeks to talk about. Like I said, I feel like we've had this on the docket for a minute, even though I think we kind of all decided to do these in like the beginning of the month, but it feels like it's been like 2 or 3 in a way.
Yeah.
To put it in, I'm looking at the playlist that I have, which I put up every single album and stuff that we've covered, blah blah blah. Just as a whole, like, okay, this is what we're listening to this week. And I obviously, when I've had this 2 weeks and stuff, I wasn't really focusing on listening. I had other things to focus on, so I actually only added these a couple of days ago. But funnily enough, the albums before that were added 3 weeks ago. So it has definitely been a fucking minute since we reviewed stuff, and that's mostly on me not being here.
I mean, Trix and I had our Joe Bonamassa adventure, but I think you were fairly spared from that, at least for now.
You should listen to Solo though.
Look, there's gonna be a lot of things that I don't get spared from in this, but let's focus on what we actually are covering this week. So we talked about it. Which one do we want to talk about first? Trix, you get to choose.
Why don't we talk about the band that I'm angry that exists because it's basically my dream job?
That would be Pizza Death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Pizza Death exists. Tell us about it.
This is my dream draft for the 2 a.m. at Denny's festival.
Just them.
I showed you two.
Well, they'd be one of the acts.
Yeah.
Trix, I know damn well if you had the money, you would come down to Melbourne to catch that show where they have the all-you-can-eat pizza buffet.
I feel like I'd have to.
That's just so good, man. They just saw the opportunity. There's a fucking image as well where it's I'll see if I can fucking find it. But it's a pizza warmer and it has a sign on it that says "Do not mosh into the pizza warmer."
I love that.
Oh yeah, found it. It's fucking great. I don't know if it's from the same place, but it's like it's just a classic fucking image now. But yes, Pizza Death is doing a show at an actual pizza restaurant where the tickets are $45 Australian, and that includes an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet.
I wish it was in a situation like this where travel was cheap. Just let people go.
Yeah.
Let people travel from all over the world to get there and make it affordable.
It's not going to be the 2 a.m. Denny's Grand Slam. That's just something else in its entirety or something. I mean,
That's
I don't think.
my goal as an artist is to set up that festival.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because that's just a moment in time that was actually captured, and I think it's one of those. It was basically done spur at the moment.
Yes.
That's what made it everything about it so fantastic. It was that nobody could travel miles and miles and miles away to catch it or anything like that because they wouldn't have the time. It was done that spur at the moment, and that's not what makes shows fantastic. Is that people can't come to it. It just makes it fantastic that it's actually they just decided to do it and they did it in such a short minute of time in such a funny fucking way. Pizza Death, it's not going to be the same concert or the same thing, but yeah, I would fucking see that at a Denny's. We don't even have Denny's here.
Whether it's a
do you have a 24-hour diner chain?
We got Roche's. It's shit.
That Denny's is too.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Is up, Roche's.
Roche. You see, you had that with you didn't intentionally did it, but you had that with a slight Lebanese accent, and that was so accurate you don't understand.
I mean, I
anyway, chicks, Pizza Death. You chose Pizza Death. You introduce it properly.
Yes, this is a thrash punk band about pizza that samples pop culture about pizza in every song.
Do we have a list of what they all sampled? Because I only recognize about a handful.
There are some funny ones. There's the I'm just trying to remember all the ones that are off the top of my head. Obviously, the one that I've mentioned for you two. I posted how they had the fat pizza. They're big and they're cheesy, which comes from an old TV show called Pizza, which is probably the most. It's Australian wog humor, is the way to explain it. It's a product of its time, and it was probably even just too stupid for its time as well. But like, it spawned Rebel Wilson's career.
It's your IT crowd.
That's the way to describe it.
No, it's not. IT crowd was smarter.
So a product,
but like it's a thing. Yes, that is true. But I mean, there was a lot of IT crowd that holds up, and then there's definitely some moments that don't.
That one episode.
Yeah, the I used to be a man one, which honestly, I would probably still be like funny because the whole thing is that Douglas is an absolute horrible person throughout the series. That you'd think it'd be funny if we didn't realize that no, actually the creator of it is transphobic.
Yes.
And then you go, okay, were they trying to somehow put him as in the right there? It's like, what else was in this? There's the Noid commercial.
Yep.
I assume the 13166 was a old ad as well.
Yeah, that's just like I don't think they used the 1300 Pizza Hut in this yet, which they might have to use in a later album. There's still 1,000 fucking pizza samples in there. I know there's a Simpsons sample where it's Mr. Burns talking about it.
There's
the favorite one. The favorite one, sorry, is just that one where it goes like, "This line is only for emergencies." It's like, of course I know that. You think I'm trying to order a fucking pizza?
That's from Die Hard.
That's Die Hard. I haven't seen Die Hard in a while, and I only watched.
I don't remember that line from Die Hard. So. Damn.
I watch it every Christmas.
Of course.
Basically.
That's fair.
I know there was one.
There was the one from like the third episode of Futurama, the anchovies.
Yep.
Okay, that's what that was from. I was like, I recognize that voice. I don't know where.
There's the one from Silicon Valley where that's the episode where Richard buys a shit ton of pizzas from Slice Line because he realizes that if they have so many orders and stuff, they're going to actually lose enough money that they'll go bankrupt because of the way that they're doing it. So he buys like 50,000 pizzas or some shit, and like buys a shit ton of pizzas. I remember that was a sample.
Worth of pizza.
I thought that was like a cut scene from like The Social Network that sounded like Jesse Eisenberg.
It was.
No.
Oh, he was in Silicon Valley?
It wasn't?
Yeah, some Silicon Valley.
I thought he was in Silicon Valley.
No,
Been a minute since I've seen it.
it's I don't. It's Thomas Middleditch. That's his name.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
think
that
he's also a
sounds
bit of a. I think he's also got a bit of a controversial.
all of the cast of Silicon Valley. I mean, there was T.J. Miller calling in bomb threats on a train.
Yep.
Yeah, T.J. Miller was just a bit weird, but from all accounts, I don't think Jimmy O Yang's got any controversy.
No, I don't think he has any controversy. Or old 8-pack Nanjiani there. Who went from being a nerdy comic to a fucking Avenger. His comedy album where he talks about Heavy Rain is great.
There's some just weird moments in this album as well, in these albums as well, or weird references that are just funny. I think the funniest title out of all this is "Pastor of Muppets."
Yes.
Yeah.
They just do a Metallica-esque riff.
I think the song that really opens up a mosh pit is Marinara Arsonist.
God, we can just go through all the fucking names of this shit.
And they're origami angel-esque puns for pasta and pizza and everything else.
Yeah. I mean, the first song out of all of this is just a self-titled song as well. It's just Pizza Death, Pizza Death, Pizza Death.
Yes.
And the last song is Pizza Death Row.
Yeah, I know, we're going a bit full fucking circle.
You know what else is a circle?
What? Pizza?
Pizza.
But, you know, these are 2 albums, 20 tracks each, about a half an hour, and it's just essentially 40 tracks. There's no super meaningful difference other than I think the new one is a little bit more developed. They're a bit longer songs, so you want to see them evolve a little bit.
I mean, if we're coming into this, if you come into this expecting to have the most like groundbreaking thrash metal album of all time, you're going to be absolutely disappointed, because this is just when you take away the samples, when you take away all the pizza jokes and all that, it is just very. I don't think it's purely generic. I don't think thrash metal is pretty hard to be that generic, but I think it is somewhat still bog standard thrash metal. But I think it's still pretty well executed, and these are not albums in which you're listening to because you want some absolutely groundbreaking piece of work. They realize quite easily here that they're just having fun.
Yes.
And this is fun. This is really fun. 40 tracks. Like, it's a bit of a slog admittedly, to go from one album to the next one, like back to back. I think the albums are good as those kind of like 25-minute bursts that you get. Having it go longer than that gets a bit sloggy for the other one. But if you still want 25 minutes of just fun thrash metal, that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
I wonder how it is to play all of these and to like switch between them all, because there's got to be some similarities between songs and song structure at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure live they do fucking jammy jams on like 3 songs at a time. It would not surprise me.
Probably. I mean, when I saw Drug Church at Sidefest, that was the festival. That was basically how they were doing it. So I feel like, yeah, this would probably be a very similar one. I mean, I bought my ticket to see him at the Burdekin in November. I will let you 2 know.
All right.
I admittedly don't know if I have like a lot to say about this album though, just critically, because I think it is just a case of like it's fun. I mean, there are definitely moments where I thought they were just catchier and fucked a bit more than the others. Like I think Gnarly Salami is probably my favorite out of all these tracks, just because I think that one was just the funnest to sing along to.
It's hard to
but
really...
it's not much better than all of it. It's just like, if I had to pick one, I think that was the one that just kind of I guess I liked the most.
Yeah. I mean, between the 2 albums...
You could easily say a blender.
Yeah. Like, between the 2 albums, like I said, one's a little bit more developed. I think one has a little bit more going on. Like, the whole Metallica riffs and all that. You know, I kind of like Eaten Alive by Zombolives. That's a fun one. Meat Sweats is a classic. Or the weird Putin hates gluten-free pizza bases. I think that's probably the weirdest one of the bunch.
It's fun. It's weird, but it's not actually like it doesn't sound weird. It's just weird that this exists. But they're going serious with the thrash metal. I mean, I feel like the actual band to compare this to, in a sense, is actually Dr. Colossus.
Yes,
because that's a simple. It's I mean I think they're in similar scenes. I'm pretty sure these bands would probably both know each other. I think they've performed on the same bill once. But in the case of this, I mean, Dr. Colossus has the whole stick of being about Simpsons songs and everything, and having that whole Simpsons thing in it. And then they do. I mean, the difference I think is that Dr. Colossus actually has a lot more of an interesting sound going along with them. I think they're bringing their own sound to doom metal, and I think having the imagery of Simpsons episodes in it actually works as really good songwriting as a way of like, they're not looking to have all this personal create their own stories, but they're looking as a way to make good songs out of existing stories, which I think works well in that. Whilst it's like in this, it's making just really catchy, fast thrash metal, but it's not. I think that's where the differences are. Is that if you ask me which one I think is like actually a lot more interesting and breaking ground, it's Dr. Colossus. But it's again, you listen to these and you realize quite quickly it's like this isn't albums that are trying to break ground. These are albums that are just trying to have fun, and that's there's always a place for that.
Yeah.
Like, this is a side project, right? These musicians aren't other bands. We got members of Wolfpack, Hailgun, and Piss Rash. And this is something that they were doing as a joke for fun, and all of a sudden, it took off a little bit. So now they're kind of like, oh, this is a thing we have to do now, in a sense, right? So there's a little bit of that. It's like if the Pizza Underground had made it big, it'd be something like this in a way. I feel like.
I just find it funny though, like the top 5 listeners in Spotify. Obviously, Melbourne is their number 1. That's where they're from. That's where all the local listeners are from. Sydney and Brisbane are 2 and 3 respectively, and then Los Angeles is number 4.
Not a surprise.
Los Angeles has a lot of people.
I mean, it's only 40 listeners, but
yeah,
but there's 40 people in Los Angeles listening to this monthly.
I bet you one of them is Macaulay Culkin.
Shout out Los Angeles.
If Macaulay's doing it, then his wife Brenda Song's probably listening too.
Ugh, that's a weird thing to think about.
Yeah, it's a fun thing in a way. Like,
yeah,
I sincerely hope that they're both doing really well, and that Macaulay's not jealous that a pizza band finally got over the edge and got famous.
I just wanted to see how many people actually end up going to the gig at the Burdekin. Just let me check that out. What's the capacity there? Its capacity. I mean, it's apparently it's 140, and their monthly listeners is 96 in Sydney.
All the seats.
I mean, probably going to be one of the smaller concerts that I ever go to, but I mean that's the fun of it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Make sure to mosh into the pizza warmer.
I don't think the place I'm at is going to have a pizza warmer, but if it does, I will.
So here's the thing. I don't think we've ever taken the temperature in the room of the whole pineapple on pizza thing.
I fucking love pineapple on pizza. Get the fuck out of here if you don't.
Yeah, it's fine. Everybody, I mostly see this argument from people who aren't Italian, and if you ask Italians about Italian food, they're such stuck-up assholes about it anyway. Who cares? It's mostly just the Americans going like, "Oh, but Italians don't have it. Italians don't have pepperoni.
No,
they have bell peppers instead.
Right.
It's completely different. So when it comes into that, that's the argument that I always see seems to be the big one is that it's like, no. And then people say you don't have fruit on pizza. It's like, well, tomato is a fucking fruit. Yeah. So it's all gone.
Even bell pepper.
It's pineapple is fine. Like, I wouldn't have it on a meat lovers. I don't think it works in that flavor. But if you have it as the classic, what we call the Hawaiian pizza, the ham and pineapple, it's a good fucking pizza. It's very simple.
That's where I personally draw the line. I don't like all those weird meats, like having ham or chicken or bacon. Like, that's not pizza to me. Like, that's just not what I want.
Your ideal of pizza is also technically a casserole, Mr. Chicago boy.
I will live and die by my pies. The minute you start putting chicken and Alfredo sauce on a pizza. I'm just like, this is getting outside my wheelhouse. I will take pineapple any day.
What
Having a white sauce is not too bad if it's a very light pizza. Like
Yeah.
if you start doing it as like a whole, here's a chicken, ham, pineapple, prawns, all that shit onto a white sauce pizza, it's not good. If you have just a simple cheese and garlic pizza, white sauce is really good for that.
Yes.
Sure.
Around here, we have a lot of halal pizzerias. And Domino, if you ever want a really good Hawaiian, I recommend finding a halal Hawaiian pizza because they use a spicy beef as opposed to ham.
Interesting. Okay, that sounds cool. I kind of heard
It
the
is
spicy beef
phenomenal.
concept.
I mean, most halal pizza places around mine, well, the classic late night kebab. I don't know. Do you get the late night kebabs over in your cities?
Not really in my city.
Yeah,
You only get the halal pizza, not the kebabs with it.
Yeah.
like I understand the concept of like a late night kebab, but it's not a cultural force. I don't think.
Well, our more cultural thing is the HSP. I mean, kebabs are with it as well, but the HSP is just a shitload of chips, the halal meat, which will either be chicken or beef, and shit ton of sauce.
Yeah,
I think that the closest thing you have, I think, to it, which has a lot more in it, but it's the closest thing, is probably the garbage plate.
That is specifically a New York thing.
Interesting.
And that would probably be the closest.
Garbage.
But we don't do.
Don't know.
We don't do the pasta salad and shit with that.
Yeah, it's like
pasta salad here, but
cheeseburgers, macaroni and cheese, pasta salad. Basically just everything that they can't sell the first day at a diner, they put on a plate and sell it to drunk college students the next day.
Pretty much. But to answer your question, Dominic, pineapple on pizza is fine.
Okay.
It's fine to have pineapple on pizza. People who complain about... There are some which I think is like, what the fuck are you doing? Like people who put peas on pizza, I think that
peas
just
and
doesn't work.
It's
like, that doesn't work with... Mayonnaise, it depends what you have it with. Peas doesn't, but that's... Basically thinking about it this way. The pizza is just bread. Like, it's different, it's dough, whatever. And then it's tomato.
Yeah.
And then, have you ever had pineapple on a burger?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good. It's good, very good, isn't it?
You know, it's also good on
if we're basically
pizza, and also good on a burger. You got to put an egg on there.
Oh, God,
you can do an egg on a pizza that works. There's a Aussie pizza that does that. The weirdest one. People will kill me for this. I don't care. I used to like this a lot, and it's pretty good, although it's probably not too healthy. There was a place that made a Caesar salad pizza.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I've had cheeseburger pizza before, and that's pretty good. It's got...
And they would have lettuce. They would have lettuce on the pizza. They wouldn't bake the lettuce, obviously. They put it on right after it's all been baked and stuff. But good. It's pretty good.
Fair enough. Yeah. That sounds interesting, I will say.
While we're on this topic, why don't we just go round robin and talk about what our favorite pizzas are? Like if we're ordering like favorite 3 toppings all at once.
Oh shit.
I'm definitely not going to say it all at once, but I'm just like thinking.
Well, I'll go
trying
first,
to see if I can find.
I have mine at the ready. It is my favorite pizza is pineapple, pepperoni, and jalapeno.
Okay. I'm a deep dish boy, as we talked about.
Pick up on this.
Yes.
So if you give me a pizza that is a deep dish, like a Gino's East, Giordano's type, and we got sausage, basil, and spinach, I am happiest.
Ooh, that sounds good. I really got to get out to Chicago and try some proper deep dish.
I will also accept mushrooms.
I'm trying to see if I can find this. I think they discontinued the Caesar salad one, which kind of sucks, but that's just how it was. But they do Caesar salad, they just don't do the Caesar salad pizza anymore. I mean, honestly, top things to have on a pizza. If I'm just saying the actual toppings of it, in a sense, I think bacon works on basically any pizza that I've had.
Fair.
I've never gone. I had the bacon, like nice crispy bacon on it is really good. Onion is a great topping.
Okay.
Again, it's another one I don't.
Can't go wrong with that.
And I don't have it too much, but it's like it's one of those ones where I think you can go wrong with it if you put it in the wrong places. Although surf and turf's pretty good, depending on it. Prawns.
Okay.
I have
Prawns
never
are really good.
had seafood on pizza.
Prawn on a pizza is pretty good. I recommend.
I can see it, but I've just never
it.
had it.
I can accept shrimp on pizza easier than the bacon ham people. Now,
I will give a shout out as well. Just want to give one quick shout out. It's not one of my favorites, but I think it is good every time I've had it. It's like sun dried tomato.
Ooh,
yes.
Have you ever had a bee sting?
I haven't had a bee sting pizza. What is that?
It's basically like a sun dried tomato. Sometimes you have pesto on it, but then they drizzle it in honey.
Oh my god, that sounds disgusting. I'll order one today.
The sun-dried tomato stuff, they'll be getting into like the marinara pizzas, or like not the marinara, the real thin crust ones is what I'm trying to get at, where you have like the tomatoes on it and like the basil, and it's just like all cracker thin crust. It's like a Sicilian pizza.
Yeah.
I think basil doesn't count as a topping, just for the sense of that's more of a garnish, but it's a good garnish. Like it obviously has a taste.
Basil counts as a topping.
Counts as a topping.
It's the flavor thing. Yeah.
I want enough basil that it looks like you poured spinach all over it.
Now, speaking of that too,
fair. That is incredibly fair.
Ironically, me using the pizza image that I used for our Barbenheimer episode. Now I have the chance to mention that my fucking arugula pizza.
Yes, your arugula pizza.
Where the pizza place I ordered from, they're like, yeah, arugula could be a topping. I'm like, that sounds interesting. Let's do that. And me finding out that they coated the entire pizza in arugula so that it was arugula first, pizza second.
I want that, but with basil. Yes,
I will take that with basil. The basil probably wouldn't upset my stomach as much. That was a lot of fucking arugula. That was like a whole salad of arugula.
Hey, eat healthy while you eat your pizza.
My body was trying to regulate something from that. Talk about beast inside the box, right?
Yes.
Shall we go into the favorites and least favorites of this album, if we really even have any?
I did have some delicious garlic bread recently. Where it was called Dracula's. Yeah. It was like Dracula's garlic bread or something, and I ordered it. And it was like a loaf of bread that was like sliced open with just like oil and just like chopped up garlic all over it.
I am incredibly turned on right now.
And you just slice off piece by piece, kind of like almost like a French bread thing, but it wasn't exactly French bread. It was a different kind of bread. But
I can't believe I forget every week that Trix is food sexual.
Well. There's like a specific joke about actuals and garlic bread, so
yeah, it was less of the.
It's not even garlic bread that you're on about. Paste. Yeah, though you're going here from the pizza. The garlic bread was just a bonus.
Yeah, it was less about the garlic butter paste and more about like, oh, this is like fucking just oil and fucking garlic, and the tagline was like, so good even he loves it because it was Dracula's garlic bread.
Yeah,
fucking delicious. But yes, favorites and least favorites. I mean, for me, like again, this is basically 40 tracks that we're listening to. This is like, they might as well be one album, right? So I mean, I kind of got a point to Reign of the Anticrust being a little more interesting overall. So like, yeah, Pasta of Muppets, Eaten Alive by Zumba Meat Sweats. Those are a little bit more of my speed. Putin Hates Gluten-Free Pizza Bases. I'm a little bit less interested. What was the track that was like pretty much an entire just skit and not a song? I can't remember. There was one though that was like just a skit.
I can't remember it all by names.
Yeah, I didn't like that one as much. I think that was on the new one. But if we're talking about the old one, Slice of Death, I also did like 1-3-1-1-6-6. That was a fun little one.
Yeah, I think 1-3, which I think was actually on their EP as well, which isn't on Spotify.
No, that band claims was released in 1966.
Yep. Yeah. June 6, 1966.
Yeah, Pizza Demo. Yeah, that has Nuclear Family Size, Gourmet Killers, 1-3-1-1 and 30 Minutes or Death.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
What an interesting selection. My least favorite is probably Greasy Bain Marie because I don't know what that is and I don't like it.
Do you know what sous vide is?
I don't know what Civitas is. No.
Sous
Sous vide.
Sous vide is a cooking technique where you boil usually meat in a bag, like a vacuum sealed bag, and like slowly bring it up to temperature and keep it at a temperature. And it's like apparently like one of the best ways you can cook steaks. And
Okay.
bain marie, I think, is a very similar concept.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think like the best. I think they've recommended if you have all the time or something of how to do a steak is doing it sous vide because apparently it keeps it really tender. You can get it like that, and then you have to just quick sear it to get a crust on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you can do like a reverse sear with an oven.
Yeah.
Okay, that actually sounds kind of decent, but no, I'll still say that's my least favorite. And then right at the Anticrust, we're probably going to say something like, fuck it, the Noid. Avoid the Noid's annoying still. I'll say that's my least favorite.
I like Avoid the Noid. You want to go first, Trix? You already had your
Sure. I'll be contrarian and say I like Slice of Death more.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Have your cake
I
and
think
eat
that
it
might
too.
just be more because I've had more time with it and I've had some of these songs on playlists.
Yeah, because I think I sent you this album like when I found it like 2 years ago.
Yeah, in like December of 2021.
Well, shout outs to Darren for showing me this album.
But favorites off of Slice of Death are Marinara Arsonist, the 13 double 1 triple 6 Satan Slice, and Slicezilla. Just fun.
Yeah, the Slicezilla
No
Godzilla
least
Screech
favorite.
was fun.
Yeah. Favorites off of Reign of the Anticrust, Putin Hates Gluten-Free Pizza Bases, Reclaim the Hut, and I'll say Gnarly Salami. No least favorites.
I don't think I really have any least favorites out of this because I also don't really have too much favorites out of this. A lot of it becomes a blender, in which if I'm actually going to be picking a least favorite, I'm really just going to be picking it out at random. So that I do like Avoid the Noid. I think that one's actually like just a catchy moment on it. I think Reign of the Anticrust is a better album. By the way, like I like Pepper Rabies as well. I think is a really good opener for it. Gnarly Salami is probably my favorite out of all this. I think that was the one that just like hit for some reason. But I don't know, it could potentially change on another listen, so it's like not really a lock or anything like that. Yeah, no, fun little albums.
Did not expect this to get over
Yeah.
40
We're talking about
minutes
next.
on these alone. So here we are.
Well, we talked a lot about pizza just then.
Enough pizza to scare the hose.
Plus, I opened up by talking about. I don't think we actually got 40 minutes on that, but I know you just done a little segue, which I will not completely ignore. So I'll introduce the next album and EP that we are doing. We are doing Scaring the Hose plus the DLC pack, collaboration and project between JPEGMafia and Danny Brown. I don't think we've fully covered the Danny Brown release. We've obviously covered stuff he's featured on because we did the Avalanche's Wildflower and he's on Frankie Sinatra.
Yeah,
and JPEGMafia, though, we obviously covered.
There's one other Danny Brown thing we did.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I'm trying to remember it.
An album that you love that neither of us were really into at all, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah,
That
sorry,
narrows
yes.
it down.
No, I know what you're on about, sorry. Yeah, it was the Brockhampton album.
Yep, Buzzcut.
Yep, Buzzcut.
Off Roadrunner.
I knew there was something else. So
Yep.
It's been a while since I've listened to Brockhampton, to be honest. I still think that album's good, but it definitely is like hasn't stayed in my head like I thought it would.
Now, I will say, as someone who's been
Scaring the
a fan of
Hose is the collab.
Yes. As someone who's been a big fan of JPEG and doing all that, this first listen I had with this, fantastic. I loved it. I was really into like seeing where these things would go. Upon re-listening to it, though, I just never experienced that high again.
I'm shocked, to be honest.
I am too.
Maybe it's the time. Look, I don't think this is a perfect record, but I do think this is the best JPEGMafia album. I love this. I think this is like I've liked JPEGMafia albums before, but I don't think as an album in full they've managed to really stay in my listening as much as just certain songs have.
Yeah.
This is a really just a really fucking good album full of just some absolute great lines in there. I mean, the opening line to this whole album, I believe, is "Fuck Elon Musk, that $8 is too expensive."
Yeah.
And that itself has some just some great lines in there. But I think my favorite line out of this whole album is in Jack Harlow Combo Mill, where Danny Brown just says, "I can't fuck with you because you let Jack Harlow sell you chicken." And that's just, there's something in which a line is comedic, but also still quite of an actual meaningful line.
Yeah.
No, it's just like, fuck, man. That's such a just fucking great line.
I still really
think
love EP,
the most
LP.
important.
Go ahead.
The thing that I just really like about this album, though, like I would say that the rapping is great and the lines and lyrics are good. I just love the production on this. I think the way that I mean, I'm assuming it's mostly Peggy who's done the production, like he usually does. I mean, the samples on this aren't the most outrageous, like underground things in here, but they've been changed into some pretty wild moments, like Fentanyl Tester, which has the "My milkshakes bring all the boys to the yard" and sample at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as someone who really loved
Fucking-
LP, like, I think that album sells a lot more for me than this one does, and it has a lot of similar, like, holy shit moments, but those have staying power. Like, hearing the whole Britney Spears interpolation is such a fun thing, or something like Rebound, or any of the number of the other songs that were on there. This one, I just feel like, has fun moments, but the songs themselves either kind of are there, like the rapping is good, like the beat itself isn't interesting or impressive to me, or there are like smaller ones that I quite like God Loves You, I think, is a really fun track, but it's kind of just like, it just doesn't stand out as much. Like, I think Kingdom Hearts Key is a fun thing to have, but the beat to Kingdom Hearts Key is not as like, holy shit, yeah, like I would expect on like LP.
In a sense, I think LP does do some kind of like holy shit moments in it, more than Scaring the Hose might, but I think that's also just because of you didn't quite expect it to happen. Like, if I'm correct, I believe the opening to LP is basically a hyperpop tune.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I could be wrong if it's the opening. I think it's Trust is the song, but I'm pretty sure that's like the opening. It's like a hyperpop tune, and then as you said, there's the Britney Spears song in there as well, which is like I didn't expect that to be a part of this. And this one isn't like LP, in which we've got the offline and the online versions as well. It's basically the same between Spotify and Bandcamp. The only difference is the cover art, which the cover art on the Spotify version is like this kind of almost seems to be parodying blaxploitation films.
Yeah, it gives off like an Isaac Hayes vibe.
Yeah, and then I kid you not, the offline version, the cover art is just Trump and Kim Jong-un.
Yes, and I think was it Scaring the Hose also has a alternate cover, on Bandcamp. It's not all that. Yeah, that's Scaring the Hose, not offline, I thought.
Yeah.
Here's the movie that the album art was based off of. It is Sweet Jesus Preacher Man.
So there you go. Yeah, in fact, there's actually they've literally just edited themselves into the photo.
Shit. Yeah, that's just it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great album out there. I love it. I've never really seen these types of films or anything like that. So I mean, the only one I haven't even seen the full of it. The only one I've come close to seeing the full of is Black Dynamite, and that's obviously
Black Dynamite's fun.
Shout out to my grandmother who went to school with Ron O'Neill of who was it? Come Back to Me.
Okay, so my hot take here too is that I think the DLC pack is better.
Me too.
I fully disagree. I think the DLC pack for me just like fully came and went. I mean, what would it be us covering a hip hop album if I didn't have the completely different take to you two?
Like,
Ron O'Neill of Superfly fame.
Hell yeah. But like, I like Hermanos. I like No Times 32, we're gonna call it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fantastic close.
I'm sure I'm pretty sure that title's also just knowing how terminally online a lot of these references can be. I'm pretty sure the supposed to be a reference to that fucking TikTok song.
I didn't think about
You know
that,
what
and
it
now I
is.
want to kill
No,
myself
no,
because I hate
no,
that song.
no.
I hate that song. Shut up.
The only one that's come to my head is the Oh No one.
That's what he's talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I do not see that. That was an Aerosmith song.
Hmm. Interesting.
I just like that. I've at least upset Dominic now. We've done our goal for the episode.
I still click off any video that
Let's
uses
see
that song.
what
It's
does
just
Jing-
awful.
Yeah, it was like the most overused sound at one point.
And it's still used.
Yeah, well, when TikTok we'll show a video of someone literally dying and put the no on top.
Yes.
Oh fuck! There was the Prodigy reference on this album that I did really like. Is it just "Unshut Your Bitch Ass Up"?
Which one was that in again?
Smack your bitch up like I'm Prodigy. Yeah, I think is what it was.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Heaven on Earth was a fun song as well. Like like I said, I like moments, like knowing that like Perfect was like the lead single and like the thing that people started to identify with the album. I think that was like the first song previewed. I'm not a big fan of Perfect. That's not really what I would have gone for, but hey, you do you.
Yeah.
Apparently as well, the opening song, "Lean Beef Patty," which is references
E-girl,
a female I think she's like a fitness girl.
Yeah,
I don't know what her
she's
content
like,
basically is.
the go-to muscle mommy.
Fair enough. And then apparently on the music video on YouTube, she's commented very nice. That's what the Genius page says.
Yep.
Interesting.
Where is?
And I saw a TikTok where it was like she was talking about the album, and like apparently the reason she was chosen is because it would be like one of the few hoes that wouldn't be scared, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
One of my other favorite lines in this album as well, it's probably one of the more offensive lines that they did it in, but I like that, is that they career like Whitney in the bathtub.
Yeah. I also like the.
I love when Danny Brown goes that fucking hard. That's it. I've just finished my sentence.
I love the simple pun play of Step a Pig.
Yeah, the song goes pretty hard too.
Step a Pig's my favorite off this album.
I mean, Lean Beef Patty starts off so strong.
Yeah, I know. I like Lean Beef Patty. I think it's a very fucking great introduction to this album. But Step a Pig just fucking goes hard.
It does.
That beat, like, if the hose gets scared from that beat, that's hose I don't want to fucking be with. It just goes hard for the whole fucking 3 minutes.
I just remember Veteran having beats that interest me more too. That's the thing. Like, I just look at this and I'm like, yeah, there's some fun stuff here and some cool stuff here, but I just feel like Veteran and the LP EP stuff that we listened to had really more out there, more interesting like beat ideas.
Yeah, I just like how some of these beats have changed though and how they're rapping. I mean, like the actual title track on this is probably the closest we get to a punk song from JPEGMafia.
Fair, yeah.
With how that basic backing instrumentation doesn't feel so much out of hip hop in a sense, outside of like one instrument in there that feels more of a trap beat, but the rest of it sounds kind of like a punk song happening in the background.
Yeah,
but I also just
there's a lot of stuff on here. This is the problem with talking with Ping. Sorry, Dominic. There's a lot of stuff on here that feels like it gets into like jazz rap nearly as well, which goes into this very like nice chill stuff. I mean, like Jack Harlow, Combo Mill's the one that kind of mostly goes into that as well. But it has that mixture of going into some pretty like hard hitting instrumentation on there to some kind of softer ones. But I don't think any of the lyrics die down as a part of it. It's still like pretty. I mean, JPEGMafia has always been somebody who has a lot to say, and it's good that JPEGMafia is the one who has a lot to say because fuck, he knows how to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, JPEGMafia still has that edge to him where it's like you don't exactly know where he's gonna fall on anything, and that is impressive to keep alive for so long. Like that.
I just read
about the opening lyric.
I think the really fun thing too is. Sorry, I think the fun really thing to hear is that Trix is like into this? Because you don't usually get into the hip hop stuff.
I'm not, and there was some stuff I really appreciated about this album. And reading the description, I think I figured out why. It's all analog mastered and remixed. It's all done on a 404, no Pro Tools.
Yes, it's as they would have done it in the 90s without Pro Tools, apparently. Oh
yes,
god, and
which
then
fucking impressive that this was all done analog.
oh, I don't remember which song it is now. Is it Tell Me Where to Go, or maybe it's somewhere, maybe Orange Juice Jones, where they kind of get into like a Mos Def Yasin Bey vibe that I was really into for a second. Like if you listen to something like Black on Both Sides, I just kind of got transported back to listening to that again. That was a real fun moment. I really dug that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that, like, I was probably going to repeat myself a lot of it, but I don't really think that's impressed me the most out of this, because, I mean, I guess in a sense, like, these are, JPEGMafia and Danny Brown aren't two newcomers, and it's not like, oh, I didn't know anything about this and I've been blown away. It's always been a case of, like, I've always known what JPEGMafia would do, and I've always been a fan of Danny Brown's vocal style in his raps. I've never been too big into his albums personally. I've never hated the songs or anything like that. I've always liked what I've heard, but I've just never gotten into the full albums. I feel like this is a case of we've gotten everything good about these two's rapping abilities, mixing incredibly well in here, and then more importantly on there, I think just the production and the beats that we're getting on this is my favorite that we've gotten from a JPEG album. Maybe you're all right. Maybe there have definitely been some more interesting ones that have happened on other albums, but consistently better. Like I don't think we get a Jesus Forgive Me, I Am a Foot type of production.
Yeah, or I can't
on any
wait
of
until
these
Morrissey dies
on any of these
production.
songs. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think this is going to be one of the hip hop albums that we talk about for a while. It might not be the best hip hop album by the end of the decade or anything like that. We're still got a long time to go, but and it's hard to argue what will be culturally significant in due time. But I think when it comes to just what's a good hip hop album, I think this will be brought up for a bit, and deservedly so, because it fucking goes hard. It's like I put hip hop albums in my top 20 before. I'm no stranger to doing that, but it's usually the genre that I have the least on here. This is obviously not going to be my album of the year because Home is Where it's probably got that locked in, and it's honestly fighting with Wednesday for its spot. Like I'm kind of fighting with myself, like which one do I enjoy more, and then I'll worry about that in 4 months or so when I do the actual the lists. But no, this is one of my favorite albums of the year. I would like to discuss the lyrics more in depth, but like with JPEGMafia's most of the lyrics, they use words that I cannot repeat on recording, and I get a little annoyed when I have to constantly bleep out words that I say in any sentence, not because of what the words mean, just because I hate breaking my sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit hard for me to talk about a lot of the lyrics, but there are some great moments. I think it's Lean Beef Patty as well, which has the Rittenhouse with the I repeat.
Yeah.
While you stretching the truth in your treats, I be stretching your girl iron chic.
Okay.
Mwah.
Yeah, that's not bad. I like that.
Yeah.
I can't see this being up there with Wednesday. It just doesn't hit that for me at all. When like Bull Believer was such a huge moment for me of the year. I wish something on here beyond Kingdom Hearts Key like got there for me, but hey.
I don't think I will agree with you. I don't think there's a song on here that I like as much as Bull Believer, but that's also a pretty high bar because I think Bull Believer is like, when I say that's a song that would have probably retroactively been in my top 10 last year, you know, it's a high bar.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
So are we really gonna say like?
Go on.
That's it. That's like, I don't really have much more to say. Like, what we were gonna say, like, I don't have another word. They kind of already imply what
Sure.
what I'm meaning by that.
Your tricks and your methods are just too advanced for me.
A fucking little.
I still like DLC pack quite a bit. I think Hermanos is really fun. I like No Times 32. On the actual album, I also quite like God Loves You, Kingdom Hearts Key, Ho, Heaven on Earth.
I will say the Scaring the Hose DLC pack does at least have the advantage of it's used a SpongeBob sample that is better than AJR's I'm Ready.
Yes.
Not that that was a high bar, but...
Yeah, that is not a high bar.
My least favorite, we're probably talking about Garbage Pail Kids, Where You Get Your Coke From, somewhere in that range.
Man, Garbage Pail Kids fucking beat goes hard. I just got a mad disagree again.
I understand. No, this is going to be
favorites
something...
for me personally.
Yeah.
I think Fentanyl Tester. I just love the fucking... I mean, I like how it's one of those chiller songs in here as well, and then that fucking milkshake sample at the end of it is stupid, but fucking works. Step a Pig is my favorite of this. I think it's just 3.5 minutes of fucking excellent rapping. Jack Harlow Combo Meal as well is another one of the highlights. Kingdom Hearts Key as well. I like the first time I heard that song, I didn't know who the feature vocalist was. I thought it was Denzel Curry for a second.
Interesting.
Because Red Veil, I haven't listened to a very similar vocal sound to Denzel Curry. I mean, I thought I wasn't like, okay. And I didn't even know who Red Veil is. Apparently they're starting to break out a lot more now, so fucking good year for Red Veil. Least favorite? Probably, it's a hard one because I don't really hate anything off this. Probably something like Ho or Where You Get Your Coke From. I don't think the ending to this album hit so hard after Jack Harlow, but yeah, it's probably one of those two. DLC pack, honestly, it was just attached on for me because why not? And they'd released it. I think it's some interesting B-sides to it, but I didn't really get anything from any of it.
Okay.
So I don't really have a favorite or a least favorite from it. Maybe favorite, though, if I do have to give one, would probably be Hermanos.
I mean, that's just a whole adventure, I feel like, with the kind of the Latin song in the background, the Hispanic song.
Yeah.
Just kind of just vibing.
Yeah,
with
that
it.
is true.
It was something a lot different.
Tricks.
Favorites for me, I'm going to start with the DLC pack. I'm going to say Tell Me Where to Go and No Times 32. No least favorites of the DLC pack. And favorites for me off of Scaring the Hose, Step a Pig. I quite liked Garbage Pail Kids. And then I'm going to go Orange Juice Jones into Kingdom Hearts Key and Run the Jewels. And my least favorites are Ho and Where You Get Your Coke From.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So that leaves us with Muse. We have investigated some of the best parts of Radiohead's discography, doing Kid A and Amnesiac, and now we have the equivalent of Muse doing Absolution and Black Holes and Revelations. As is typical now, Trix, I must hear from you first. How have your thoughts progressed?
These are the first albums of the whole experience where I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get this.
Yes. The kick up in quality from Absolution over Hullabaloo or Origin of Symmetry is noticeable.
Oh yes,
because you can hear the Muse, but then yes.
I was gonna. I keep forgetting to ping on all this as well. I will forever fucking defend this take. I just don't give a shit, and there will be a lot of people who probably criticize it because I never said the same about any of the Radiohead stuff. But Absolution is a 10.
I can understand the argument for that. Absolutely. I do not think it's a 10, but it's very close. My problem with Absolution is that it's a little too unfocused. And the structure of it kind of goes with the same effect over and over to the point that it's a little bit tiresome. Because you get the louder songs and the quiet songs. Louder songs and the quiet song.
I mean, you know me, I like when albums kind of contrast in that type of way of getting these differences and stuff like that. I think it is, in its sense, an overdramatic album, because I think it also tries to be quite a cinematic album. And it works really well. I mean, you even have the interlude in the middle of this, which is just literally a 30-second, basically ambient track.
Yeah,
that's happening in there. But I think the loud moments are done incredibly well, and I think the softer moments are done incredibly well. Like, it's just all done incredibly well. We have some of the catchiest writing in some of these ballads. They're not just a whole simple, like, if we're listening to a soft, whiny love song or anything like that. We're listening to some really nice listening ballads I'll catch. I mean, Endlessly will just randomly come into my head, and that's one of the softest songs on all of this. You might say, I think my only criticism of this album, and it doesn't even ruin it for me, it's just like, it is still criticism, is that you have some of Matt Bellamy's pretentiousness. I mean,
this is
you
where
can't really tell me that the Small Print. Yeah, you can't tell me that the Small Print is really that big. Like, oh, they're telling you everything that's wrong with the media and stuff like that. But it's an anti-media song. Yeah. But it's still a fucking great hard rock song.
This is where the whole Muse thing of doing political songs with no real message in them and having just generic, anyone can relate to this kind of things really starts. And
honestly, it really only happens on the Small Print on this album. If it happened a lot more, I think I would hate this album in passing. But I think the Small Print's the only really, like, the song that kind of does that. I think there's a lot of it which is a more generic. It's more based off a kind of storyline that seems to be like a concept of the little end of the world.
I mean, Butterflies and Hurricanes also.
And then the Small Print probably. Yeah, I guess that is a bit true. It's like that little moment in this album that kind of breaks away from that concept, I guess. But move aside from that, which is basically my only criticism of the album, because I think when it comes into the rest of it, you realize as well that a lot of the reasons to like early Muse as well wasn't so much for the meaning behind the songs, other than that they could just write songs that sounded good.
Yeah.
And it's weird because if you go into some of my past criticisms, specifically Motionless in White, which had that fucking album that was 100% just pure centrism because they were afraid of making any political statement, but wanted to act like they were making political statements. I mean, in this sense, I feel like at least the Small Print might have a little bit more to say than fucking Red, Rat, and Boom does, even if it still does really say nothing. I can't really remember all the lyrics to Butterflies and Hurricanes, admittedly, but yeah, that is a sense of that. But where this album has always shined for me has been these kind of big crescendo build-up moments that happen on the album, which are just executed perfectly. I mean, Sing for Absolution is basically like it's a single from after the album came out, from what I remember, but it's not ever a song that I see people talk about from this record. But holy fuck, the outro just pays off.
Yes, and the thing too is that they do a lot of different sort of quiet songs, right? So you have Sing for Absolution, and then Falling Away With You is entirely different. And I think it's easy, especially in the earlier albums, for them to kind of have songs that kind of sound a little bit similar, they're kind of coming from the same approach or a similar place, and these are pretty much all different. And like, there's so many of them that are catchy, so many of them that are just like huge moments, like Time Is Running Out. Oh my god, what a fucking nostalgia hit, right? Or listening to just Stockholm Syndrome, like Blackout, because that's when you get to like the orchestral parts too, where Muse starts really laying into that.
This is an album I remember, like, the first time I would have listened to this as well. Well, obviously would not have been 2003 because I was 5 years old around then, so it's not that. It would have been a couple years after that, actually. I think it was probably would have been around 2009 or something. Would have been around the first time I properly listened to this album in full, maybe 2010. I always start beforehand. It's just when I made this. And, I mean, this wasn't the first album I ever bought, but this was actually pretty early on in the CDs and stuff I bought. So there is a bit of nostalgia as well, which is why I give this a 10. I don't care. I remember just being like, the thing that always impressed me about this album, even though there are albums that do it more and better, this doesn't try to be a collection of songs. This legitimately tries to be a fucking album.
Yes.
Almost like every song flows into the next song. And for a kid that has like never really had that on any album he had heard before, that kind of blew me away. I was like, okay, this is like one song basically. And Now, I obviously know they didn't fucking... They didn't create the concept of that. That is just what albums are supposed to fucking be. But that's something that's still, like... I don't think in any other Muse album they kind of executed that as well as they did in this one.
Perhaps. You might be right on that.
In Resistance, you might be able to argue.
We need to listen to Resistance again for me to fully agree or disagree with that. But what I will say is that I was doing a lot of reflection upon listening to these two albums and realizing that I've talked about having a Radiohead phase. And realistically, that Radiohead phase probably lasted my senior year of high school, if not even the entire year. The grand majority of maybe one semester. But like, after that is when I had my Muse phase. And my Muse phase, I started listening to Muse when the Second Law came out. And I was really into that and a lot of the albums, not really realizing, no, these albums are truly special and there's a lot of good stuff here. And like, these are really standout albums from like the decade that they came out in. My Muse phase probably lasted until Drones came out.
Which, yeah, terrible album.
And so, I had 3 years of like listening to this stuff over and over and over versus like my time with Radiohead kind of coming and going once I kind of listened to it all. This is stuff I kept coming back to, and kind of listening. I think, yeah, Absolution and Black Holes is kind of the highlight of everything we've done so far.
I think going back into Black Holes and remembering all these songs and all that, Black Holes has some of Muse's best songs, but just as an album, comparing it to Absolution and as an album itself, I don't think it's lost or anything like that. But I think it just tries to be Absolution again, but just doesn't succeed. But yet, outside of it, we get some of Muse's best songs, and obviously they've had their biggest hits.
Yes.
Of Black Souls and Revelations. I mean, people probably forget a little bit that Starlight was like their song for a while. When this album came out, it was like, yeah, no, Starlight is one of the fucking songs off that album. I mean, put the Trilight meme aside as well. Supermassive Black Hole's a good song.
Mm-hmm.
It is
a
Muse moment, but it's yes. And then we're left with a middle section that's got, I mean, good moments in it, but it's also got moments that just like, I don't know, kind of just exist. I mean, I honestly, Map of the Problematic, I'm not even as big as a fan of when we're going to the first four. I think it's really the first three for me.
Those
I think Invincible is one of their better slow songs.
I do.
Assassin and Exopolitics are fine when you play him in Guitar Hero and stuff, but I just found myself never coming back to those now that I've grown up. City of Delusion and Hoodoo as well. Like, yeah, there's songs that exist and stuff. And honestly, if I had never heard the song that's coming up after all that before it, I probably would have just completely not cared about the album. But then no, Black Holes and Revelations ends with one of the best songs of all time. Night Sidonia is just an incredibly written track, to the point of it is probably still, I could probably say almost without a doubt, it's in my top 20 songs of all time.
Okay.
Maybe top 10. I think it's, put the guitar solos and stuff aside of it and put the pretentiousness of the fact that the lyrics mean absolutely basically nothing. The song just it is.
I'll show you how God falls asleep.
It is it's the fucking rhapsody of our time. It's incredible just how many different fucking things that song does in 6 minutes, and every single fucking part of it is executed perfectly. It is, and it's easy to sing along to as well, so it probably makes it a lot easier for people to love it. But the lyrics aren't too basic without being like too pretentious. They are a little pretentious, but I don't give a shit. Yeah, obviously the fucking guitar solo is every Guitar Hero 3 player's fucking favorite moment.
Yes.
Is seeing how fast you can fucking strum before your arm gives in.
Yeah.
Like, let's not forget that Guitar Hero 3 was basically what caused that song to have such a massive blow up.
Oh yeah, and like that was my introduction to Guitar Hero. That was my introduction to like, oh, Muse is like this band. Okay, yeah. Before even the Second Law was something I was really focusing on. I knew Muse from this, right? And you make a point of talking about Nights of Sidonia as the end of the album, right? But like for me, as someone who grew up with this on iTunes, the last song was glorious. And this goes
ruins
in,
the ending of the album.
and which brings me to my discussion of the structure of this album, which is why I disagree with you on the Absolution thing. Is Absolution has a very specific structure where it's, it has the heavy songs and then it goes to the light song. It has the heavy songs and then it goes to the light song, and then it does it about 3 or so times. This Black Holes, on the other hand, is a different kind of album, and that Black Holes starts with 4 bangers in a row, just straight off the bat, and then goes into the slow section of like Soldier's Poem and Invincible, which to me is the weakest part of the album. It's not something I like coming back to necessarily as much. And then from there, it just spends the entire time building up to Nights of Sidonia, with each song being better than the last, and each song kind of building on the themes and motifs, kind of really bringing in that like Spanish influence, to the point that when you're there by like Hoodoo and City of Delusion, it all kind of just starts really clicking. And then Nights of Sidonia is this beautiful just crescendo, this climactic moment where everything kind of comes together, and you have that 6 minutes of bliss. And then Glorious is this really nice come down where it's like everything has is like resolving in a really nice way, kind of in the same way that Horizon ended Random Access Memories, at least the Japanese version, where yes, Contact is a great ending, but Horizon is not a bad alternative ending.
I just want to
it's a weird, messy structure.
Sidetrack on this. And just so to say that Nights of Sidonia has one of the most controversial moments in Hottest 100 history, because remember that this year came out in 2000. This album came out in 2006 for all of this. But the Hottest 100 used to have a rule. It's basically changed now. It was a weird one, but it's just based on how songs would get to Australia and stuff like that, in which the songs that were eligible in previous years could be eligible for the current year based on the popularity of the song in that. So if it was like a certain level of popular in a year before, it's not exactly how it was, but it would be songs that would be ineligible for other years because basically they had already charted or been found and people didn't vote for them. So they hadn't been re-recorded or anything like that, or they hadn't been re-released. It's a big one as well. So like back then, it was basically like if it was re-released in a year, it could be eligible because then it'd be re-released as a single and then it'll finally get radio play. It just comes with how people will be able to go for it.
Yeah.
So despite Nights of Sidonia being a song from 2006, it won the 2007 countdown. And this was after the year before the album made top 10 albums, so it had already been like somewhat heard and all that. But because the Guitar Hero 3 popularity and all that, it was eligible to be voted for. And it won by 17 votes, which is still to date the lowest difference between 1 and 2 in any Hottest 100 countdown.
I believe it.
And the song it beat was Silverchair's Straight Lines, which that song played fucking everywhere on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a bit of controversy about that because it wasn't a song from 2007.
Yeah. I can
and now since then we've definitely had some moments in there where it's like, I think basically since 2013 and the rise of streaming and all that access, it's basically now just become a hard cutoff. It has to be re-recorded in a different song for it to be eligible again.
Yeah,
like a different version. But that's just an interesting fact about that album. But the year before, and that's what also makes it a bit controversial as well, because it wasn't just a case of they got on the top albums poll but didn't get. No, Starlight and Supermassive Black Hole got 9 and 18 on the countdown respectively.
Yeah.
So they were popular the year before.
Yeah.
It's one of the weirdest moments in Hottest 100 history.
Now I want to bring Trix back into this.
Fair enough.
And I want to mention, I think I mentioned this in the chat a little bit, but you know who designed the album art for both of these albums, Trix?
The creator of the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon album.
Yes. And so this is what he was doing in the 2000s, and I think both are pretty good. I think the Black Holes one is a fantastic piece of art.
Yes.
But it's just nice having that like legacy coming forward. And Rich Costey being the producer, he produces them really well. he has been a producer for Muse since Showbiz, but holy shit, I think this is where he really unlocked their potential.
Yeah.
On these 2 albums. I'm curious if you have more to say about like why these are the ones that hit for you over the others.
Well, I guess it is also a case of recognition. I know Hysteria. Hysteria is one of those songs where it's like showing off like, oh, your bass chops. You learn Hysteria.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just one of those. I'm sure it mostly comes down to recognition. I think the bonus track off of Absolution is one of the better songs off the album too.
Yes, there was an
I
interesting.
I don't hate Fury, but it's like it deserves to be a B-side.
So apparently the debate was Matt Bellamy wanted Fury on the album. The other 2 wanted the small print, and so the other 2, being the majority, won. But that's how this one became the digital exclusive additional track. Because Matt Bellamy wanted it so much.
Just a digital exclusive. It was in the physical version of Sing for Absolution single, which I managed to find secondhand for $1.
And it also looks like it was on the Japanese edition.
Yep.
Yes, it was placed in its original.
Honestly,
original placement.
Fury and the small print, you could probably swap them out, and I probably wouldn't have any change of opinion on the record.
I think the small print's probably the better song. But Fury has a nice bass line. It's kind of what it is, right? It's kind of like a nice little thing. Like,
yeah.
I think Ruled by Secrecy is probably one of the weaker songs on here, and it doesn't really truly end the album. Fury sounds like a better end to the album.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is also the album that
in a sense, I kind of agree.
This is also the album that has a fantastic intro where it's just like a little bit of intro, and then you have just the fucking cat pounding on the keyboard piano for Apocalypse Please, which is such a fun opener of an album. So I mean it's a high bar set for like, oh, this is how this shit starts. We want this shit to end really well, and I think Black Holes pushes that farther. With Take a Bow being a great opener, and then Nights of Sidonia and Glorious both being really great closers. The Absolution just kind of is like, yeah, it's doing that, but not as well.
Mm-hmm.
God, these fucking.
I don't really have too much else to say, but it's this is the peak of Muse's career. These 2 albums still. I mean, I think they had good moments after this, but it's kind of like after they've written Nights of Sidonia, I feel like they kind of had done everything. Obviously, then Resistance came out, and there were some people who don't like Resistance. I think there are some people who consider it to be the start of the downfall. I think Resistance is the last good Muse album.
I quite like Resistance. I think Resistance is probably the one that's the most listenable, front to back. No objections.
The poppiest Muse album.
Yeah, and we'll get there.
But that's not a bad thing because it's a change of sound.
And we'll get there because I want to do 2 more of these episodes before the year ends, because ending off with Hail to the Thief and Resistance is kind of where these eras end for both bands. Radiohead post Hail to the Thief is a different band. Muse post Resistance is a different band.
I'm happy to do my favorites and least favorites if we're
Go ahead.
If we're ready.
Go for it.
Favorite Apocalypse Please, Time is Running Out, Sing for Absolution, Stockholm Syndrome. What a fucking opening to just an album. That's beautiful. And I'm not going to do the whole meme of every song and stuff like that, but I do think the album's a 10 out of 10 on its best day. You might be able to catch me on some days in which I say maybe it's a strong 9. So it's not the most solid 10 I have out of there, but there is admittedly parts on this which I give it a 10 due to nostalgia. I don't care. Like the album. Least favorite, if I have to give one, would be the small print. But I still think that is still a fucking hard-hitting rock song. There's a reason why dad rock is a thing, because it had to be good rock first. And this is back in the time when it was good rock.
My father hates when I describe things as dad rock.
Yeah, sucks to be him. Black Holes and Revelations. Favorites, Starlight, Supermassive Black Hole, and Nights of Sidonia. I know they're the basic choices, but they are some of Muse's best songs in their whole discography.
Yes.
But then, least favorites, probably Soldier's Poem, because that's just a waste of 2 minutes.
That was the song they re-recorded from Absolution, apparently. Or I think
Good
that's how
thing
that
that they didn't
goes.
put it on Absolution.
Yeah. I want to go next because I love these albums. For Absolution, like, yes, Apocalypse Please, Time is Running Out, Singing for Absolution, Stockholm Syndrome, fantastic opening. I think Falling Away with You is also a great follow up to all of that. Interlude into Hysteria is also fantastic.
Yeah, but then we're going.
Really,
And
when it comes
look,
down
you're
to
already halfway through the album.
yes.
Fucking.
I think the intro is a fun little thing. Doesn't necessarily need to be there, but ultimately my least favorite part of it is something like Thoughts of a Dying Atheist and Ruled by Secrecy, which are not bad songs, but when you're comparing them to everything else, just don't stand out nearly as much. You flip over to Black Holes, though, and I think that this opening volley of 4 songs is even stronger. Like Take a Bow to Map the Problematique is probably my favorite section of Muse, more than one song anyway. And then Soldier's Poem. I think Invincible is the worst track here. Invincible, I just think kind of sucks. And they were going for a Heroes by David Bowie inspiration, and they not only did not hit that, they are just fucking doing. I would accuse them of being patriotic American masturbatory bullshit if they weren't an English band. But the build up from Assassin to Knights of Sidonia and to Glorious is also really fantastic. So, Soldier's Poem and Invincible is the least favorite part of Black Holes.
Favorites for me off Absolution, I'll have to go for Sing for Absolution, Hysteria, and Fury. Least favorites, Thoughts of a Dying Atheist. Favorites off of Black Holes and Revelations is going to be Supermassive Black Hole, Map of the Problematic. Yeah, all 4 songs at the beginning, and I'm going to tack on Knights of Sidonia because I vaguely know how to play it on bass.
Knights of Sidonia is a fucking fantastic song. Yeah, I've not said that enough. I don't think so. I just want to say it here. It's almost a shame that we did these like. What was that?
And no real least favorites off of Black Holes.
It's almost a shame that we did these 2 head to head because they are both great albums, almost worth taking the time to do by themselves. But that's how I wanted to do this project. So here we are. Let's go into rankings.
All right.
I'll start. I feel like this is it's weird because we're going for a week in which like everything is good at its worst. Like maybe one that I'm going to say I think was just, like not so I didn't care so much about, but I think it's still like good. So I think if I'm going to be like honest, there's a part in which like I had to go, what I enjoy more is what I just enjoyed more. So number 6 is going to be the DLC pack for Scaring the Hose. And then 5 and 4. 5's going to be Slice of Death, and 4's going to be Reign of the Anticrust. 3 in that case is going to be Black Holes and Revelations, because even though those Pizza Death albums are more consistent, I think it's just the highlights of Black Holes and Revelations do make it like they're fucking good songs. They pick up a lot of slack.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2 is going to be Scaring the Hose, the main album, and number 1 is going to be Absolution.
I'm curious about Tricks.
I'm still kind of putting it together. Give me a sec.
I'll do it then. Number 6 for me is Slice of Death. Number 5 is going to be Reign of the Anticrust. They're fun. I just don't think they're in the same class as, JPEG or Muse in this point. Because then for me, we're going to do Scaring the Hose, and then the DLC pack above that. Number 2 will be Absolution. Number 1 will be Black Holes and Revelations. I think Black Holes and Revelations, despite having a couple songs I don't like, is up there for me near 10. It's up there with The Queen is Dead and Random Access Memories, which are like my top albums that we listened to this year. It's better than any 2023 album we listened to this year. And my number 1 for that still is One Wayne G.
Fair enough.
Absolution's right below the waiter for the record too.
Wow. I guess I'm going to start with Black Holes and Revelations. I think that this is a week where easily any of these albums could be a number 1 for me.
Okay.
Which might be a hot take.
All right, just continue.
So I'm going to start with Black Holes and Revelations. Then I'm going to do Scaring the Hose, the full fat, minus the DLC pack. Then I'm going to do Reign of the Anticrust, then Slice of Death, then the DLC pack, and then Absolution.
Which part is the beginning? Which part is the number 1? I guess. Which part is number 6? Which part is
number 1 is Absolution.
Gotcha. All right. That's fascinating. I did not expect this at all from you, so I'm very pleased. But this brings us into next week, where Ritz will be out again, and we're just gonna go ahead and do a regular episode.
And I'm still gonna pick stuff for you to listen to.
I'm gonna go first.
I'll give you a bit to listen to, but I've talked nothing crazy. Yeah, good, because I'm still looking for something.
You once said by, I think it was episode 100, you promised you were going to cover this band before episode 150. When I brought it up before, you were like, I don't keep my promises. So fuck you, I'm going to keep it for you. We're doing the Mars Volta's Ambitecture.
Well, that is basically to be expected.
Fair enough.
I influence your picks.
Also,
I want to say,
yes,
we had a music league round of you had to pick songs that weren't entirely in English. So I pissed off everybody by picking the Mars Volta's LVO, because now they had to listen to 13 minutes. And then I also picked Paranol's White Ceiling demo version. So they had to listen to 30 minutes of music from me. 2 songs alone. Great week. People totally weren't burnt out.
The connections between Black Holes and Ambitecture also make this just a perfect album to just go to next.
That's fair enough.
Same year.
Chicks, you want to pick your next ones?
Yes, I have already kind of spoiled what I'm going to be doing a couple weeks back, but I don't think Ritz remembers at least. I'm going to be doing the 2018 album You're Not Alone by Andrew WK.
Yes, another album which I have that one. I need to listen to it properly in full again. So, I mean, I'll still try some takes throughout the week, but I don't keep my promises.
Yeah.
How many emo albums do you want to listen to, Dominic?
I think 2 is a good number if you're not going to be here.
I think 2 is a good one. Well, good. I think it's a good thing to wrap up. Just all of this. One of them I need to kind of put into my playlist because I bought tickets to see them in 2024. That's weird for a band of that size. But I'll start off by picking the one that I just recently saw. I don't think it's an album of the year or anything, but I think it's got some really nice songs in it. So just going to give you a nice little emo record to listen to here, Dominic. And that's just like you like that. And then you said yourself you needed to start listening to them. So, yep, Spanish love songs, No Joy. That will be picked. That will be the first one.
So we got the Mars Volta and the Spanish love songs together.
Yep. Beautiful. And then the second one, as I said, it's a band that I'm going to see in 2024. It is so far now going to be the closest we get to Homer's Wear, just because they're on the same label as them. It is the new Hot Mulligan album, Why Would I Watch?
Interesting. Okay.
All right.
I can't guarantee you that either. I'm just picking some emos so Dominic has a fun time.
So just to recap then, Ritz, you're picking Spanish love songs, No Joy, and Hot Mulligan's Why Would I Watch?
Yep.
I am picking the Mars Volta's Ambitecture. Trix, you're picking Andrew WK's You Are Not Alone.
Yes.
All right. That's been Dissonant Waves then. You can catch me online on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck you want to call it. DACICHOCKI. I'm also on YouTube, Dominic Chakotay, if you wish to visit that. I'm also on the Games My Mom Found podcast sometimes. We just did an episode about Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days.
I have been Ritalin. You can catch me on my website, ritalinforkids.github.io. I also have a YouTube channel that's in the description below. You probably won't catch me on this podcast sometimes because I seem to be taking holidays every second week.
I've been Trix. You can catch me online on Twitter, Blue Sky, Hive. I'm spray painting tweets onto boxcars. You can follow us all on Twitter and Blue Sky. Check out our website, buy our clock, YouTube page, all that.
Oh yeah. That'll be doing it for us then. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Bye.
We'll look back. I love you forever.